going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets here on our FTN YouTube page. Listening on iTunes and Spotify, we appreciate you guys. Chris Meaney, as we bring in Alex Blickle. Of course, we are very familiar with Alex Blickle. If you're not, well, you're missing out. Alex doing some great stuff for us over at FTN. We're going to talk about the 2024 Players Championship. Everybody calls it the fifth major. Before we actually get into the majors, but Alex is a pro golfer. He's the director of analytics and co-head of DFS at FTN, the man behind the great DFS projections across a lot of sports here at FTN, and the co-host of Pro versus Pro, which you can catch here on our YouTube page as well. Alex, we're getting into the middle of March. This is excitement, right? The past couple weeks have been exciting for golf fans, right? Bay Hill, and then here we are with Players and Masters around the corner. What have you noticed so far, before we get into it, just how the season has started? For me, on the outside, there's been a lot of long shot victories so far this season. Of course, Scottie won last week, and we'll get into him, but there has been a lot of long shot victories this season, and I know you are always picking long shots, and you've hit a couple so far.
Yeah, we haven't gotten the big outright win yet this year, but we have had a lot of each way hits. So we're kind of treading water in between the big hits. But man, on the DFS side of things, it's just been winning week after winning week. So lots of fun to start this season for sure.
Let's start with Scottie. A lot has been made about the putter over the past couple of years, and then the new putter, and he takes down a victory pretty easily last week. He's obviously the defending champ here. Has anyone ever gone back to back with Bay Hill? And off the top of my head, I mean, you would know this more than me. I don't put you on the spot, but I don't remember it happening recently.
You know, I'm not sure about Bay Hill and the Players. Nobody has defended the Players Championship, which Scottie's also trying to do this week. So, man, he's been so impressive. I think one of the things that Justin and I have talked about a ton on Pro v Pro is that when someone is struggling with the putter the way he has, it's so difficult to keep that frustration from seeping into your long game, continuing to hit the ball really, really well week in and week out. He's just been immune somehow to that. And now he finally corrects the putter, at least for 1 week. We'll see if it continues, but there are reasons to believe that it will continue. Like if it does continue the way he's hitting the ball and the way he's hit the ball for a year plus now, he's got a chance to win a lot of tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. He is the massive favorite here. We're going to get into the odds board in a second. You mentioned he won last year, and there hasn't been a defending champ. We've seen Cam Smith here in 2022, Justin Thomas in 2021, and a Rory in 2019. So there's been some big names here that have taken this down. When you're looking at the course fit, and you got your hot takes article, link inside the description of this video. By the way, FTN March, 35% off at FTN Bets and FTN Daily. So take advantage of that, and you'll be with everybody throughout the entire tournament, giving some prize picks and underdog plays. What stands out to you when you're putting together, whether it's DFS lineups or some winners? Is it really like looking at the top of the board? I mean, this is a course that you get in trouble, it could be over for you, right? There's a lot of just a lot of avenues here that can get you into trouble. So what are you looking at? I mean, top of the board, it does seem like a lot of the big name golfers are there heading into the weekend.
Yeah, there are a lot of what we call high leverage shots on this golf course, where the difference between a good shot and a bad shot is just so much wider than usual. You know what? Typically on a golf course, if you hit a good shot and you're a PGA Tour player, you're going to have a chance for birdie, but you might be 20 feet away, something like that. So you're still most likely to make par. And if you miss the green, put it in the bunker, guess what? You're a PGA Tour player. You're probably getting up and down for par. On this golf course, the difference between a good shot and a bad shot on so many of these holes can be a putt for eagle and a double bogey. So you just get like, it separates the men from the boys, I think is a really good way to put it. So yeah, you need to be a good golfer all around. And then we also have this strokes gained driving accuracy metric that I think does a much better job of telling us exactly how accurate a guy is off the tee than the typical just percentage of fairways hit. It kind of strips away the distance component from the accuracy component of driving. And then it also has a bit of like a course management signal in there, where guys who are really high in this strokes gained driving accuracy metric know which side of the hole to really favor. If there's water down the right, they're going to typically miss left. There are other guys who it almost seems like they have a magnet to that trouble. So a lot of that going on this week as well, where there's a ton of signal on that statistic.
I'm going to take something out of your article up at the top, where you talked about, from a DFS standpoint, I think we can pivot to betting, and you can take something from this if you're just not a DFS player and you want to have a pick or two. But the first thing you said, every single lineup you build should have one or two 11K studs. And we take a look at just the top of the board here. From DraftKings, Scottie Scheffler at plus 550. It's crazy, right? It's almost Tiger-esque, getting close. Rory at 12-1, Xander at 20-1, Hovland at 22. We got Thomas, of course, former winner, at 22. I love when Max Homa takes to Twitter and social media about people's swings. I always get a good kick out of that. Cantlay at 28, Morikawa at 28 as well. Willie Z at 30, Spieth at 35. Hideki does have a W this year at 35, and I put Fleetwood on this board as well. So some of the 11K studs, like, what do you expect ownership wise for Scottie this week? Like, and I know you try to fade in some single entry stuff.
We currently have him at 30% in the large field MME contests and 36% in single entry. And amazingly, the new GPP scores that we have are still saying play as much Scottie Scheffler as you can. His percentages are unbelievable. One of the things that I've continuously harped on this year is that most golfers are far more likely to fail than give you that like ceiling type performance where, you look at a Victor Hovland, he's fourth in our projections. He has a 50% chance in our simulations for a top 5 finish and a 26% chance to miss the cut. Most players are skewed in that direction, and most players are skewed even more in that direction. And then there's Scottie, 45% chance for a top 5, only a 9% chance for a missed cut. He's just in a league of his own.
Amazing. He really is in a league of his own. And it is scary to think about, because I know everyone is talking about the putter. And I know we just touched on it, and you touched on it on the show. I heard you and talking about it as well. And everybody just seems to like, what is the ceiling for him if he can just have an above average hot stick there? Anybody else jump on this list before we dig a little bit deeper here? Again, we're talking kind of top of the board. Fleetwood at 40, Hideki at 35. Wyndham Clark actually not on this list, but man, what's going on with him? Like, this time last year, he was 115th, 16th maybe in the world. He's got 3 W's already, and he's fifth in the golf rankings. I mean, what do you make of his trajectory?
Man, Wyndham has been spectacular in these just stacked field events. He's definitely become one of the most explosive golfers in the world, where he can just go on a tear. 8 holes, 7 under, 2 eagles, something crazy like that. You can pretty much never count him out because of that explosiveness. But the other thing that stood out at the top of this board is that I do think Rory and Schauffele should not be that far apart in odds. In fact, we actually have Schauffele slightly ahead of Rory. I think the reason for this discrepancy is just everybody knows that Rory can get it done and win big tournaments. People are questioning that with Xander. He has so many more top 5 finishes, top 10 finishes than not just than wins, but than you would expect for the number of wins that he's gotten. He doesn't always close the door. We don't think there's a ton of signal there. We think that when he's in contention, he's a phenomenal player. He's good in every aspect of golf, so we certainly think he can get it done. So I would say there's a little bit of value on Schauffele, a little bit of value on Scheffler, which is rare for me. I very, very rarely see any value whatsoever at the top of the board.
Yeah, we always chat about this, and hopefully we can continue this on Mean Streets. And I encourage everybody to check out your show, because it's fantastic. I mean, to listen to 2 pro golfers talk about the ins and the outs of the game and players' form and what to expect is, for me, it's highly entertaining. But I noticed just the gap here. I was like, wow, Rory at 12 and Schauffele at 20. It just seems to be a little bit of value there. Sidebar. People, I always hear people say, "Oh man, I really hope Rory doesn't go to live." Hope Rory doesn't go to live. You ever think? What do you think the chances are he goes to live?
I think really low.
Yeah,
he doesn't need it.
No.
He just really doesn't need it. He's got everything he needs here at the PGA Tour. I think the more likely outcome is that he just stops talking to the media and just says, you know what, I'm just playing golf from now on.
Yeah.
The other interesting comment that he made, I don't know if you saw it earlier this season, was he's talking about how many more years he could play on tour or something like that. And he said 10, or I get my green jacket and just walk away. So that's also seemingly a potential option, just because he's so tired of answering all these questions. And I think he was initially pretty eager and excited to take on the leadership role that he has on the PGA Tour. And now here we are a few years later.
Right.
Probably thought, man, this thing should have been resolved years ago. I'm sick of all this drama and being in the middle of it all.
I actually feel his frustrations when certain questions
Mhm.
are asked to him. It's like, oh my
Mhm.
goodness, you're doing this again with him. So yeah, I'm rooting for him to get that green jacket if he goes out. I like that. Goes out with a bang. Good for him. But I think we'll see him on tour for quite some time. Not saying that he won't be able to get the jacket for a while, but he's always going to be in contention. Okay, let's take it a little bit deeper here. Is there anybody outside of that board, somebody that catches your eye that could be sneaky, maybe a wait and see type player to see how Thursday and Friday go for him? What do you think?
Yeah, I'll talk about two guys. I'll start with Sahith Theegala. He's been one of our favorites so far this season. We've used him a ton, both in the betting market and in the DFS world. And the guy just keeps coming through for us. He's got 3 top 6 finishes already. The thing that I love the most about him, and coming into the season, it was the fact that from an event to event standard deviation standpoint, he's as volatile as it gets. And in fact, in this field, he has the second highest event to event standard deviation estimate in our numbers. This is really helpful for a player who's not at the very top of the board, right? When you have a player who's clearly at least a full tier below the best in the world, that extra volatility, it helps them access the type of ceiling that you're interested in getting. It gives them a better chance of winning. It gets them a better chance of finishing in the top 5. Yes, it also gives them a better chance of missing the cut, but that's why we love the fact that week in, week out, he seems to be really low owned on DraftKings and then just totally undervalued in the outrights market. And now we get to take that a step further this week, because one of the reasons why he's been so effective this season and just a much better all-around player is his driving accuracy has gone from not necessarily one of the worst on tour, but clearly well below like all the other players in his talent level. And now this year, he added this like stinger cut off the tee. He talked about it on the walk and talk on the broadcast this past week at Bay Hill after he hit it beautifully on 16.
Yeah.
And it has completely changed his game. He's now one of the more accurate players off the tee. He's basically in the Max Homa, Hideki Matsuyama, Sung Jae Im even range of accuracy off the tee players. Which, man, if you told us that a year ago that he would convert that weakness into this much of a strength, I think people would be a lot more interested in him. I don't know if they're just like late to see this improvement from him, but it's yet another week where we see Theegala just completely undervalued everywhere.
Man, he's awesome. I think he's great on the course. I love hearing him in interviews and talking as well. Just love his vibes. I had a bit of a sprinkle on him at the Waste Management Open, and of course Taylor came back and won that, the Canadian. I was happy for him, of course, to get it done, but also want to see a little bit more money in my bank account at the same time. But it does seem like he's hanging around over the past like couple of years. The improvement, right, last year into this year. I love that statistic. Is there anybody else, like off the top of your head, I want to put you on the spot, that you feel has like really changed a portion of their game that maybe will be able to make some noise this year?
Yeah, Lucas Glover's another one. Obviously, he had that like phenomenal stretch towards the end of last season, got some wins in big fields. He has a different improvement this year. So there are two things that I really like about him right now. Number one is that we've just gone through like a month and a half of golf course after golf course, really rewarding and almost requiring distance off the tee. Lucas Glover does not have that. He's no distance. He is quite accurate off the tee. Now we finally get to a golf course that fits his skill set more in that regard. Yet he's still consistently churned out some really good finishes this season because his iron play has been typically great, just like it was last year. But the big improvement is that his short game has been phenomenal this year. He's gaining strokes every single event around the greens. Historically, that has not been a strength of his. It's even been a weakness of his. We'd like to see more from the putter. I think that's always the case, when he was winning last year, that was the number one reason why all of a sudden he was winning tournaments instead of just getting high finishes. Like the ball striking was unbelievable in those wins, but he also finally complemented that ball striking with some made putts. We're going to need that for him to get into the top 5, to get into contention and even potentially win. But at 175-1, I really like his outright, especially if you can get it with an each way on Bet365. I have it 1/5 the odds up to 8 spots. And I definitely think he could get into the top 8 just from playing as well as he has tee to green of late without even the putter. If you get the hot putter with everything else, now all of a sudden he could pull off that huge upset.
Yeah, 175-1 on Bet365, and Caesars at 100-1. Again, the prop shop's fantastic, right? You see the difference between the numbers there. The top 5 finish at 33-1 at 365, and Bet Rivers is 18-1. How about a top 10 at 14-1? Seems like a pretty decent sprinkle there as well. And again, Bet Rivers at 8-1. Anything else before we get you out of here? I know you're a busy guy. I want people to check out the show. Subscribe on our YouTube page. You're subscribed, you're going to get notified right away. Of course, we got some of the fun tournaments coming up. This one is, I thought last week kind of kicked it off, although I'm a fan of Waste Management, Open Genesis. I'm a fan of all of it, Alex. I know you are as well, but I feel like most maybe average golf fans kind of get into it now. I know a lot of golf pools, one and dones and things like that. It started up last week. So is there anything else? I know you've been behind the Prize Picks tool and doing some great stuff over there as well, and you'll be active in the Discord this weekend.
Yeah, I'd say that's the last thing is that Josh Culp does a phenomenal job for us of gathering data like, hey, at this golf course, what have the average birdies per round been? What have the average greens in regulation, the fairways hit per round? What are those numbers like so that we can go to those sites like Prize Picks, Underdog, where those are the main props that you can choose from. And we just then have a really strong advantage. We also get like, top 25th percentile numbers in all of those categories. So yeah, the average player is only making 3.5 birdies per round, but if you get the better players on the golf course, now all of a sudden it's 4.5. So all of that really good stuff, we should be able to attack those sites pretty aggressively this week and hopefully have a lot of success in that regard too.
Yeah, and FTN is the promo code at Underdog, and Prize Picks, if you're just new over there, they'll match your first deposit 100%. Of course, we have FTN March. And I did take this from Culp's article. He said, since the shift back to March, there have been 26 golfers who are priced with 20-1 odds or lower, the favorites that we've talked about here that you saw on the board. 9 of them went on to post top 10 finishes, 35%, while just 6 of them missed the cut or withdrew, 23%. And he said the bucket of favorites includes 3 of the 4 March winners, while the other was Cam Smith at 30-1. And then I thought, did he bounce right after that? He bounced right.
Yeah,
was it
pretty much right after that. Yeah.
He bounced pretty much right after that. Alex, always a pleasure, man. Keep killing it. Alex Blickle won on the Twitter machine as well. So I know a lot of people like to. I've heard this from some people, and I know the odds aren't great, but when you still hit a 7-1, 8-1, it does feel great. Obviously, I know some people kind of wait till Saturday or they feel out the course on Thursday and Friday, and then they get into maybe some Prize Picks or some props or a little bit of a small sprinkle heading into the weekend. What do you think about that strategy?
I think it works. I think on a golf course like this, where that the leaders can move backwards quickly, and yet there's also the potential for someone to go, 5 under in a 4-hole stretch, waiting until Saturday, until Sunday, and just seeing if there's a guy who's kind of hanging around, but not maybe not getting the attention that they deserve because, hey, they're 5 holes back from the leaders, or 5 holes ahead of the leaders, I should say. And they're quietly playing a solid round of golf, and the books aren't adjusting to that yet. You can definitely take some shots on this golf course late in the week and potentially find some pretty strong value.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to lose some value, of course, like if you're betting atop of the board. But if there's somebody that's a few strokes back, like you said, that have had a good couple of days, but maybe the putts aren't falling, but they're right there. You know what I mean? Like they're good off the tee, or their approach game is solid, and they seem to be getting birdie opportunities, and they're just not falling the first couple of days. Maybe, that third day is kind of the key day. I think heading into that day is awesome. I love chatting with you, Alex. Enjoy this weekend, man. Good luck with all your picks. Hit Alex up if you have any questions. Again, it's Alex Blickle 1 on Twitter, and we will be doing this again in the upcoming weeks. We'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.